Hey guys, how's it going? So if you're clicking on this video, you want to know more about the axial and center dead zones. And in my last video, I talked quite a bit about them, but in this video, I want to actually show visual representation of what the dead zones actually are and what they look like at different percentages, okay? So my dead zone, I play with axial dead zone on, and I just play with axial dead zone at 3. I don't want a center dead zone, so I just have that turned completely off. And then for movement, I just have axial dead zone maxed because my controller is broken. So if I don't have it maxed, it drifts. So my last video, I talked about drifting and everything. So if you want to go check that out, the link is in the description. But we're just going to talk about dead zones in this video. So I'm going to pull up this cool visual representation that I found on Reddit. Okay, so the red section, as you can see here, is the dead zone. So on the graph itself, right, the red area in the middle is your dead zone. If you were to play with standard dead zones, okay, you have, I think it's like or this is actually like at halfway, right? So this is at halfway is what it's showing right here in the graph. And then so I'll talk about the registered and unregistered diagonals here in a second. So first off, we're going to start with the circular dead zone, right? Or the center dead zone. So if I were to take this all the way down, this is what your center dead zone would look like, right? So if you have, if you're just playing with center dead zone on, this is exactly what your dead zone will look like. It would be a circle, right? So let's say you bumped it up just enough so you didn't drift, right? Like, because if your thumbstick is just a little bit off center, like it'll drift quite a bit, right? So if you just bump that up just enough so you're not drifting, that is your dead zone. Everything else where your thumbstick goes is being registered, right? So you have full control over pretty much almost every single movement on your thumbstick except for when it's at center, right? And if you wanted to, you could make that larger, right? So it's showing that like you could make your dead zone that large. So you would have to move your thumbstick outside of that red zone for it to even register your movement, right? Now let's do axial and circular or center dead zone on, right? What that's going to do is that's just going to round the edges of your square here. So your square is your axial dead zone. So let's say you were to turn this completely off, right? Now it shows right here that your dead zone is now just a square, right? So if you wanted to bump that up all the way, right, you have the massive square, just as if you were to have center dead zone all the way up, you just have a massive circle. The difference with this, right, is you see the blue areas now that are on here as well. The blue area, which is right here, is unregistered diagonals, right? So when you get your thumbstick like up, right, and then you diagonal just a little bit, it's not going to register that diagonal. So it's very smooth up and down movements. Even if you were to have just a little bit off center from like straight up, even if you were just a little bit off, it still wouldn't register that diagonal movement. It would just be straight up and down. And that's the way the more classic Halos were. So that's why, you know, you had more up and down and right and left control, because even if you were just a little bit off on like going right or left, it would still have that like perfect movement. So that's why I play with axial dead zones on, because I like to have that nice movement. Like it feels natural. So like, even if you were to get to this area over here, you know, you're still getting that diagonal movement now because you're outside of that blue area. So I put it at 0.6 because that's actually what I play on with having 3 sensitivity. This is what my dead zones look like. So outside of this, you're getting movement if you go up here. And if you go this way into the blue, right, it's only registering, or it's registering straight across as long as I'm in this area. As soon as I come outside of this area, now it's starting to go diagonal. So it feels like more classic for me. And that's kind of how it works, right? So if I have this dead zone, right, and I bump up my center, you see how, like, if I went up here even, you know, like in this area now, it wouldn't register because that's in the dead zone. So I like to have it at 0. So, I mean, that's exactly how the dead zones work in this game. And I figured a lot of people want to know that kind of information. Having the dead zones the way that I have it right here, like I said, is going to be like more classic Halo. So if you guys like the old school, like the classic Halo feel, you want to put your circular or your center dead zone at 0, and then just use axial dead zones and find what feels comfortable for you. I put maximum input threshold at 15. We'll talk about that a little bit too. So maximum input threshold, right, is just how fast it's registering like your acceleration, right? So if you were to move your stick even just a little bit, it's at your maximum acceleration. Whereas if you were to have your maximum input threshold at 0, it would take more time to get to that, because your maximum acceleration, right, let's say it's at 5. If you were to move it just a little bit, it's going to put you right at 5 and it's going to be flying. So personally, I like to have mine maximum input threshold all the way, and then my sensitivity at 5, or my acceleration at 5, and then I just mess with sensitivity. And from there, like, the controls feel amazing. They feel so good. It literally feels like classic Halo, like Halo 3, even on MCC. So, all right. If you guys like the video, make sure to actually like the video. Throw me a comment if you want to talk about anything. I do respond to pretty much all comments. And if this video is helpful for you, make sure to share it with your friends and show other people. That way they can help understand the dead zones in this game. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you. Love you. Peace.